Okay, so now we're getting deeper into our finance section. Just as a recap from Friday, so we did simple and compound interest. Now what we're going to do is switch to more of a research guided section where you're going to be researching both banks and some vehicles as well that maybe you're looking to purchase in the future. For our section for Monday, we're mostly looking at two different topics. The first is on changing parameters with compound interest. So when we change the pay period, when we change the interest rate, and for section 4.3, mostly on credit cards from the consumer perspective. So mostly when we're looking at credit cards, we're not doing like a lot of calculations. We're mostly comparing and contrasting different bank accounts and seeing which ones are more beneficial for you than the others. If you go onto the module, because there's an interactive tool that we haven't really used yet, it looks just the same as everything else when you first start the module. But what you'll notice is there's something called time value of money solver, or for short, it's called TVM. You can't type in these boxes here, so you'll see present value, future value, annual interest, etc. What you'll want to do is hit the start down below. And when you hit the start, it will bring you up to this TVM solver, and that's where you're actually going to input the values. Alternatively, just from our announcement, I also linked it here, just where it says, don't worry too much about the calculations. We'll be using the TVM solver during our class. Click here. If you click the click here section, you should be able to pull up your TVM solver. Okay, so if we go back, let's say we're trying to do a solution. Let me pull one up. Whoops. Sorry there. Let me pull up even this first example. So it says use the following TVM solver to determine the total amount of an investment of $900. Interest is 7.2% per year, compounded monthly for 5 years. Okay, so lots going on there. It's asking you to determine the total amount with an initial amount of $900 invested. So if it is initially dropped into a bank, that is called present value. Future value is when interest is already accrued on that investment, or alternatively, if you owe money, future value is with interest charged as well to your purchase. So $900 is our present value. That's our initial amount that we're dropping into the bank. Picture yourself with $900 cash going to the bank right now. You have an interest rate of 7.2%. So you're just going to pay attention to the values on the left-hand side and enter them in. It's set over a period of 5 years. And now here is the tricky part, is making sure your periods per year are proper. Since it's compounded monthly, you're going to think about how many times a month occurs in a year. And of course, we all know it's 12. And that's basically it. You're going to just input all of your values from the question, which I've already done, into my TVM solver. When you want to calculate, because there's not like a calculate or a start button at the bottom, you're just going to click on whatever you're actually looking for. So for me, I'm clicking on this future value button right here. Okay. Hopefully you saw that circled there. But I'm just going to, again, click on the FV for future value. And right there, we started with $900. It accrued 7.2% interest over a period of 5 years. And we retrieved back $1,200, almost $1,300. Does that make sense? Yes, because it was compounded at 7.2%. You had lots of compounds, okay? So your interest was being compounded on a monthly basis, but every month that interest accrued on top of other interest. Let's take a look and let's just change the pay periods, because that's one of your questions on your assignments. So what if I just did one compound per year, one annual compound? Let's see what the future value does. So it goes down a bit more. Okay, so notice that the amounts aren't the same if you change the periods per year. You were at 1288, now you're at 1274. Okay, why did that happen? So nothing happened to the interest rate, nothing happened to the number of years, but you're missing a sliver of that interest that's calculated on top of other interest. That's the key principle. What if you want to go the other way? Well, if you want to figure out the present value, first of all, I would just clear everything. Let's say your future value instead was, I don't know, $4,000. So let's say a question says at the end of an investment, you earn $4,000 from your principal or present value investment. Your interest rate, let's just keep it all the same, 7.2%, 5 years, 12 compounding periods. So the $4,000 is the finish line. We're going back to the start line of this race because we're trying to figure out before all the compounding, all the interest accruing, what actually happened here. Same thing, you're going to fill out all of your fields, your future value, your interest, your number of years, and your periods, and you're just going to click present value, and boom, does that make sense? Yes. So it's telling you your present value is about $2,800. That makes sense. It's had 5 years to accrue a pretty substantial interest rate with lots and lots of compounds. So your present value should, of course, if it's an investment, always be smaller than your future value. Other way around, if you owe money, because you're not just going to owe the $12,000 on the car, you're going to owe probably $12,000, probably plus, a couple in financing and a couple in interest. So pay attention to what you're actually looking for because it's going to depend on the context of your question. So just wanted to point that out, that when you're using the TVM solver, you can't type in these boxes. You need to hit start. You're mostly just scrolling through, solving, and honestly, these questions are mostly just using the solver. So you're really just plugging in. It talks a little bit about some exponential relationships with compounding. Compounding is typically looked at as an exponential relationship because it's building on top of other interests. And that is the moral of the story for 4.2. It also has you changing some of the interest rates and number of pay periods or compounding periods. 4.3 is mostly about credit cards. It discusses the difference between debit and credit cards. And also some of the pros and cons of credit, which is something that you're going to do in your assignment. It shows you a bank statement. It gives you a breakdown. And discusses exactly how that interest is calculated with the credit card. Again, don't worry too much about calculations. We're mostly going to be using the solver because in the future, you're probably going to be using like your bank account solver or some sort of electronic assistance. So once you're done that, you should obviously practice a little bit using the solver, but you're just completing the credit task. So how I have it set up, it's an automatic copy link. So you can either just type it in the computer. It's a lot more friendly, this task, for the computer, or on paper and pencil is fine. Suggested banks are Scotiabank, TD, BMO, Tangerine, RBC, any bank that you wish. It can either be a physical bank, so brick and mortar, or it can be an online bank. When you click on the assignment, you're just going to click Make a Copy. And it's going to bring you right to here, so all the questions. The first question is just has you finding two different credit cards from different institutions. So let's say I take a Scotiabank student visa versus, TD Infinite Visa. Okay, those could be my two cards. You're just going to go on their websites, read the description. The institution should be straightforward. Annual fee should be straightforward. Interest rate, same thing. All these criteria points should be pretty straightforward. And any incentives or points, so that could be like travel. Maybe you get like a cashback bonus like Costco does. Maybe you get like a gift certificate or some sort of welcome bonus. And then some of these reflection questions, so just about you as the consumer using the credit. For question 4, you're using that TVM solver. So you're basically just filling out all these values and clicking enter. There's one future value, one present value. Question 5 has you going back to number 4A. So you're changing the compound period from 1 to 4 and kind of like what I just showed you. So what happens? Did the value basically go up or down? You can probably use what I just did there to answer that question. And then last but not least, so taking note of 3 benefits and 3 cons of using credit cards. Credit cards can obviously be super useful as long as you're using them in appropriate ways. So just has a little T-chart down here. And it's out 24, nice short credit task. It shouldn't take you too long here. Okay, so hopefully this helped.